what does heroin do? What does drugs do in a community? The black community pre-1968, we used to stand on the corner and sing and dance. No doors were locked. We didn't lock our doors. We didn't have bars on our window. The black community was unbelievable. You think I'm lying if I tell you that even here in Baltimore, there was probably 1 or 2 killings per year, if any at all. And if any black person killed the other, right, we would talk about it for years. And when you hear about it, you would think the killing that happened 10 years ago just happened. That's how uncommon what we call black-on-black crime was. So drugs came in the community and changed the community. Well, who benefited? First, what happens to the black community? That singing, dancing, happy community. We were a happy people, although we were oppressed, because we were one people. We weren't like now. We were one people. When you saw another black person, you automatically just gave them the sign. You automatically. When we traveled from the south to the north or south to the west, when we met other black people on the road, right, like they have rest stops, I could pull right up and we'd sit down and start eating food together. You didn't even have to introduce yourself. That's how high the level of camaraderie was. The black community in those days, 70% of every family was a 2-family household. 30% of the children was born out of wedlock. If you go back closer to slavery, since the breakup of the family was the main force used against black people, if you go back to the 1930s, 76% of adult African Americans were married, because we were so family orientated, because slavery had broken up the families. Slavery was a system where if you were a man, you could see your mother, your sister, your wife, your children sold, and there's nothing you could do about it. Nothing you could do about it. And only a few of us that were lucky knew our family lineage. And I say I was lucky because my father was born in 1900, and our oldest relative was born in 1800, and he lived to be 106 years old. And my father used to listen to all the old stories. And our great-great-grandfather was a stud on a plantation. So we knew where all our family was. Even today, we know where our family was and where they went. And what happened from the Civil War and before all that, we know our family lineage. But we're very rare in that case. So in the early days, 76% of black people were married. What happened? By 1980, the statistics had turned upside down. What do we mean? It means that by 1980s, 30% of black people were married, 2-parent households, right? And 70%, what? It's probably up to 75 by now. What does that mean? No family, no stability. No family, no community, urban renewal, moving the people, shuffling them around. Pretty soon you have a people that have no roots. You have a people that don't care about each other. So if the system attacks anyone in the community and they have no love for each other, then the police can come in and slaughter and jail anybody they want, and we won't do nothing, like now. But if they would have done that years ago in the North, we wouldn't take it. Now I want to tell you a little difference about the North and the South. You've all read and heard about Martin Luther King, right? Martin Luther King led the movement for civil rights in the South. In the South, it was Gandhiism, nonviolence. But in the North, in the West, those of us who were born in the South and had moved to the West. I moved from Arkansas to California in 1951. That was the middle of what they call the Great Negro Migration. I'm telling you, we was moving up out of the South. Because I'm telling you, even here in Baltimore, right around here in Baltimore, you read the history of this area about lynchings. Right around here, right around here, right outside of Baltimore. Lynchings of black people not that long ago. Maryland has a bad history. Maryland and Virginia, Virginia, if you cross the 14th Street Bridge a few years ago, you would be driving right into segregation. And the Mason-Dixon line is right up here somewhere, isn't it? You drive on the highway, it says Mason-Dixon line. If you below that, finish. Finished. That means Baltimore and all this area of Maryland, had a shaky history even during the Civil War. I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, black people are very fortunate to have survived the fitna and the oppression that they had. Drugs was used as a means of killing and neutralizing the black community. And it worked 120%. It worked better than they thought. Within 1 or 2 years, we had bars on our windows. Because see, when you start using drugs, right, you start stealing. So you don't start stealing way out in Towson, whatever this is. You start stealing from your neighbor, right? So pretty soon, your neighbor doesn't trust you. Your neighbor has to build up a barrier between you and him. The neighborhood changes because now some blacks can get jobs that we couldn't get, and so that old neighborhood that was one solid black people, doctors, lawyers, and workers were all living in the same segregated community. Urban renewal came on, big jobs out here at the university come along, right? Big jobs downtown pretty soon. The ones that can afford it moves out of the black community. The only ones that's left in the black community, welfare recipients, right? Crime infested area. What does it do? Drugs kill the black community, turns the community in on itself. And drugs is a closed-in system. It is so deadly. Those of you who study economy, think about it.